As for the lions, they're still here. So just go around them.
Giving a lion manure a wide berth.
Yeah, see if we can keep our tires a bit cleaner. Also want to try and set us up in such a way that when they do move, they hopefully move straight towards us. Hopefully in a non-aggressive manner. Two Mapogo males. It's getting very dark out here now as well. We're going to try and push it as far as we can, light-wise, but we're going to stick with them for a bit. They're still very fast asleep. Don't think they're going to move anywhere too soon, but let's see what they get up to. Let's see what happens, and we'll also talk about what we've seen so far and experienced so far this afternoon a little bit in the form of some questions.
Hi Pieter, do you copy?
Yeah, so I copy you 5 out of 5.
Okay, I've got a question from Deb. Why would the Nkuhumas come back to this area knowing the Mapogos are a threat?
Deb, it's like all questions, an interesting one. Let me just try and get some light on them maybe for you, James. Might help a little bit when we go back on them. It's a case of, see, I can give you like a short answer which is easier, but a lot of these things, there's sort of a understanding behind it rather than just an answer to the question. But it's a case of the Nkuhumas, they've got the area. Remember this morning we spoke a little bit about essentially you've got female prides, and they've got certain areas or territories set up, and that's a fixed area that they live in. Now that's obviously fluid. It's not a fixed area. It's not from this tree to that river to that mountain. Even that can sometimes be almost that precise. That can change relative to conditions, relative to food, to other predator pressures, to water, to male activity as well. So the Nkuhuma pride have already changed their behavior quite a bit. Oof, I just thought the way James moved, that the lion's moving. I thought it's going to stand up for us. They've already changed their area quite a bit. They've gone as far north as they can. But keep in mind, there's also other lion prides around. So it's not just the Nkuhumas and the Mapogos. There are thousands of lions in Kruger, and they all form part of this ecosystem. So if they push too far, they're going to then start pushing into the neighboring area, and then they're going to start infringing another territory, another lion's resources, and then they'll have a whole set of other problems to deal with. So they can only move away so far. Now at the same time, the Mapogo males are aware of the fact that there's females. They know there's lionesses around, they know there's cubs around, and they know that this is the area they want to take over, or have taken over. They've essentially already ousted the other males. So it's a case of cat and mouse, I guess, or cat and cat in this case, where it really is just a case of eventually the Mapogos will find those cubs and they'll kill them. And I know that sounds very harsh. It's not something I'm not emotional about or not attached to in some way, but it really is what it boils down to. Those cubs will die. Some more of them might take a little bit longer than the others, but eventually these males will kill them. Just because there's no point in these males spending all the energy they have, taking all the risks they have. They've themselves come close to dying quite a few times. They've had severe injuries, as we can see now. They've had much worse injuries than that. So they've taken all that risk and expended all that energy to take this area over, and in that process hoping to father their own offspring, which will be quite spectacular lions, just to add that in. But they've got to take over this area. So the females don't really have much of a choice. They can postpone the inevitable by moving further north and trying to stay out of the area, like you asked, Deb, basically by trying to avoid these males. But keep in mind, these males cover a vast area, and they will go further north, and they will go in essence, they'll go anywhere that these Nkuhuma females might be. So what the Nkuhumas have got to do is try and avoid them, and they've been doing quite well, way more than I would have expected. It's already, I'm terrible with dates, but it was, James, I don't know, maybe you can remember, November sometime that they killed the one big male the first time. They killed one of the other cubs already in December, and that was already quite some time after I'd thought they would have gotten a hold of them. And then it's been months now since they actually had physical contact with the Nkuhuma females and the youngsters. They've had contact with the females, some of the females a few times. So, like I said, it's a bit of a long answer, but I hope this makes sense to everyone, because I'm sure that's a question that's on everyone's mind. Is for these females to avoid these males is impossible. Inevitably, they will come in contact with them, and inevitably they'll kill the cubs. The fact that the lioness is dead is not something that's typical. Normally the lionesses don't get killed in the same process. She must have just been a very fierce protector of the youngster at the time. So, yeah, before I go on and on and on about the whole thing, I mean, there's so much going on in this respect. I think that answers the question well enough. Soon, and next one. Guys, we've
got a question from Daniel.
Yeah.
How many females do the Mapogos have, and how many cubs?
Okay, well, Daniel, interesting question once again. I want to stop saying interesting questions, they all are. Just to explain quickly, we are doing the utmost best that we can with the light conditions. We are now almost in darkness, so we will try and do as much as we can, but I think we all agree that it's better to stay here for now than to try and change cameras. So please do understand if it's a little bit different from usual. Daniel, just to answer the question, is I can't tell you exactly. To be honest, they've taken over a very large area. It goes much further south than we even have communication with the guides with, never mind being able to see ourselves. It goes as far south of the Sand River, and a very large part of this reserve. So I can't say exactly how many females, but in excess of 15 or 20 probably, if you add all the different female prides together. In terms of cubs, they would have almost no cubs of their own so far, Daniel, basically because they're still in this process, even though they've achieved most of it, of taking over a new territory. So they're still chasing males off. They've done most of that now. Now they're starting to assert themselves within these areas, make sure no other males come and challenge them, and also make sure that that the next offspring they do father are theirs. So none of the cubs that we're aware of at the moment are theirs, even though there would be quite a few females walking around with young Mapogos busy developing inside them. So in about the next month and a half or so, any lion cubs that are born in this vicinity would have been fathered by one of the Mapogos. I hope that answers that. Next one.
Yeah, from Joe in Washington. Assuming that the lioness had any cubs who survived the incident, will the other surviving lionesses of the Nkuhuma Pride suckle them?
Very good question, Joe. I was actually thinking of that earlier when we were looking at that lioness, and I didn't mention it. But Joe just wants to know what will happen essentially to the cubs if any of them survive from that lioness that's dead. Now that is something that is quite common. Like I said, the fact that those cubs were eaten is something that's not so common. But in terms of lionesses sometimes dying and leaving cubs behind, in this specific case from a takeover like this, but also from things like snake bite, or in the Kalahari it happens often where gemsbuck injure the lionesses, or different antelope or buffalo. There's many ways that lions die out here. What we're seeing now, experiencing at the moment, is the exception to the rule. But Joe, to come back to the premise of that question, if cubs are left behind after their mother is dead, as long as they can keep up and stay with the pride, which they normally are able to do, other lionesses will suckle them. It's called allo suckling. It's something that's quite common in lions, and any lioness will suckle pretty much any cubs, or any of the cubs in the pride. Oh, he's going to give us a yawn. Look at that. The business end of a lion. Although smelling the car, I might have to change that. But Joe, so those cubs will have a very good chance of survival with the rest of the pride. Oh, they might get mobile for us. Oh, he's going to walk straight towards us. Look at that. He's going to walk very close past us as well. And Mr. T is the one in the punky hairstyle. I don't know this one. Still getting to know these guys. He's going to walk right up to the car, guys. Look at this. Wow. And this is the one with those amazing eyes. This is the guy called Sharko. The first time we saw him, I just saw that little mark on his shoulder. Oh, nice to see him again. Guys, let me just try and turn the car a little bit. It's just decided to change direction a bit. It's going to be a little bit dark, excuse this, but I just need to turn the car slightly. Actually, you know what? Let's rather keep an eye on the guy in the front. If he moves again in the back, we'll turn. He's just lying down right behind us. If I move more, I'd actually disturb him. So let's see what this guy does next. Alright, so I think we finished that question, but basically if the cubs stay with the pride and there's other lionesses suckling, which is the case at the moment, they will survive. Also, a lot of these cubs are getting older now. Some of them are 5, 6, 7 months, 8 months old, so they can survive on meat as well. But that's another stress that comes in. As we can see, a big part of the reason why these males found those females and subsequently killed one and some of the cubs is because they had quite a large carcass, something big enough to attract attention. So there's just a whole array of different stresses that come in with pride takeovers, and those things eventually in some way or another will take their toll, especially on the youngsters. Alright, well, I thought we were going to not have time for more questions. These lions look like they were going to leave, but it looks like they'll be here for another while. Sue, another question?
Yeah, this is from Sandy in Maryland. Since the lioness is the one that hunts, are the Mapogos feeding only by stealing?
Sandy, this is a question I'm very glad is asked. Maybe it's at some other stage we'll discuss it again when we're looking at a carcass, but it's a huge misconception created by television largely, and over time you will come across a lot of those kind of scenarios with us out here just because we're showing you things as they happen. But it was a huge part of early days of documentaries to create this scenario of males don't hunt and females do all the hunting. The males just stay at home and drink beer and watch sports. Males are actually as capable hunters as the females. And I'll give you a quick sort of life history of a typical male. From the age of 2, they get kicked out of the pride, and they live under very harsh conditions where they have to do all their own hunting for at least 3 to 5 years. And not only have their own hunting, but they also have to dodge other lions, so they have to be very careful about where and how they hunt. And only once they get big enough, when they're about 5 to 7 years old, like these guys are, do they become dominant enough to challenge again and to take over their own territories. And once that happens, they will have the opportunity to feed from carcasses and from kills made by females. Now in this specific case, the Mapogo males, quite a few of their kills they make themselves. The buffalo they fed on last is a kill they made solely by themselves. I know from before they've killed giraffe as well from their own hunting. And so it's a case of quite often they will scavenge, and in a more traditional pride setup, oh, he's got something, maybe a big swelling there. Look at his face. You can see massive swelling there from all those cuts and bruises. Yeah, no, he's a bit uncomfortable, and maybe the lip also got bitten through. So in a more traditional pride setup, oh, he's hurting, huh? You can see he's very careful about it. A lot of the injuries that we won't see will be on the legs as well, the front paws and the front legs, the forearms essentially. Again, earlier today I had a good look. It was just full of bite marks where that lioness would have bitten physically into the leg muscles. So in a more traditional pride setup, sorry to finish this question, Sandy, is if it's only one pride of females and males, those males will often be off at night covering large distances, average of anything between 15 and 30 odd kilometers, patrolling, scent marking, roaring, keeping that area secure, keeping other males, other marauding males out, and in that way providing a safe environment for the females and the cubs to survive in. And then quite often they will join the pride again and then feed off whatever the females have hunted. Again, with the Mapogo males it's a little bit unique because it's so many of them, 5 males together, and that also enables them to take large prey. Ooh, they're going to roar.
Peter, it looks like is he putting his saliva on his foot and then
Yeah,
rubbing
look at that
his
scar quickly. Sorry to interrupt you, James, but that's exactly what James is saying. On his right lip there, as he looked this way, there was a big, almost like a Harry Potter scar, like a lightning strike scar. And that's exactly that. He's licking his paw, like James is saying, and then he's using that saliva to clean the cut with. Look at that. Guys, we're going to get some roaring just now. This lion behind us is calling.
I don't
There's another one.
I think it's another.
Maybe there's a third one on his way. Sorry, it's taking a while to finish that question. Sandy, I think we pretty much answered it, but the Mapogo males especially, because there's so many of them together, and also because males are bigger, they can take larger prey. So when you find prides that hunt, for instance, that are specialized at buffalo hunting, you find that normally the males play quite a big role in that, just because they're physically heavier. A male lion jumps on a buffalo, he's 30%, 40% heavier than a female, and that obviously comes with its own benefits. So it's a long answer, but it's one of those misconceptions that still floats around in the world whenever people think of lions. So I think we can try another question. We might have to cut questions short at any second when these lions, if they do start moving or roaring, but let's try and fit another one in.
But he's hurting Pieter, huh?
Okay, we've got one from Tony in Bristol, England. Which animals are likely to eat the poor dead lioness? Are prey animals still afraid of the lion even when it's no longer living?
Okay, question from Tony there. So just to highlight again, James is also saying this lion is hurting. You can see the way he's moving. Look at that. Very, very careful and slow. You can see it's painful. Big scars on his leg there as well. You can see that blood there on the foot. Shame. Tony is asking what animals might scavenge on that lioness carcass, or the carcass that we saw earlier, and also if prey animals are still afraid of lions. Tony, first of all, again, it's not typical, but it's possible that hyenas will scavenge on that carcass. Lions might, even these guys might. Again, it's not typical, but it's possible. Jackals might. Again, it's not that typical. Quite often lion carcasses are just left. Vultures tomorrow, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a few vultures on there, and as the carcass starts decaying, you'll see more and more of it. But up to now, that lioness, and I'm sure some of you, when you saw it, the first instant when you saw that carcass, you must have realized something wasn't quite right. But she still looked like pretty much a big lioness lying out in the open sleeping. Even when I walked down to her, I had a few seconds of apprehension. One was, expecting one of these big guys to burst out of the bushes. But the other one was, even though I knew she was dead, she still, to my sort of primal subconscious, she still looked like a lion. So to draw that back to your question, Tony, is that lioness still looks very much like a lion that's just sleeping. So that would also discourage things from going to poke around it too much. As far as prey species go, that whole area there will smell very strongly of lion. There's been fighting and killing and feeding and dung around it as well. So prey species in general just avoid that area for a couple of days. They're not going to walk up and check it out. They would rather just stay clear of it. But that question will be answered largely over the next few days as well. We'll go past there. And then of course things that will definitely scavenge and decompose that carcass are your decomposers, things that specialize in it. Maggots and flies and beetles and all kinds of other insects. Shame, man. Look at this guy. He's just slowly cleaning those wounds. Very important to keep them clean. Oh, he's going to also walk past us. Look at that. Battle scarred and limping. This is that guy with James, when we saw him last time, you see he's got that tussle of hair under the neck there. It looks like a goatee or a little beard. Which way are you going to go by? Oh, he just looks like he's walking carefully. So this is I was going to say T2. Mr. T has got a slightly more punkish type hairstyle with that little mohawk on the forehead. And this guy almost looks like him. He's got a slightly bigger mane, so maybe we'll call him T2 or R2T2. Okay, James is doing a very tricky job a very good job of camera work there. We are literally filming in darkness at the moment. Ah, there we go. If only I did as good a job of lighting as you doing with the camera, James. He's going right behind us here. Guys, we're just going to turn around quickly, and we have to try and make the most of what we can with what lights we have. James, you're going to grab that quickly. So excuse us if it goes dark a little bit. We are under adaptive conditions at the moment. James, actually, let me grab that. I'm going to go around them again. Oh, here's the third one. Awesome, actually. We're not going to go around. We're just going to turn as quick as we can. Oh, 4 of them. Wow. Oh. This is the guy with the black mane. I'm slowly starting to get to know these guys more and more. Here's Mr. T. He's just joined. You see the guy in the foreground? He's got that very quirky mohawk on the forehead. This other guy, he's the male with a blacker mane. And then, yeah.
Are they smelling, Peter?
Yeah, I think they're smelling. Might even be us, huh? Maybe all that lion dung we've got on our tires, yeah. Might be a few smells there. That's interesting. The breeze is coming from us towards them, so it could be something coming from us, or maybe just something from our direction, because that's the way the breeze is going. There we go. Look at those males close again together. The one lying down at the moment, that's Shaka. He's got a slightly redder mane, but we are still going to have to spend a bit of time. It'll take me a while before I can instantly recognize these males. But Mr. T, obviously easy. Guy lying down at the moment with his backside towards us. That guy there, that's T2. I'm sure they're going to follow these other 2 males. Let me just get the game drives out quickly. All stations update. 2 my daughters just joined these other 2 at Central Road Junction, and they're getting mobile now. Looks like they're going to head towards Jida Katlan. Alright, let's stick with them. I'm not quite sure how long we can stay with them. Oops, sorry, James. Guys, again, if the lighting can... Cool, Charles. I'll stay with them as long as I can, unless obviously they're from a tortured. Sorry about... Okay, boy on for. Let me just drive first, then I'll talk. Hey. I think what I was saying, we're going to try and stick with them as long as we can. And, oh yeah, I was apologizing for just in case the lighting is a bit tricky. We are going to do the best we can, but to change cameras now will take us as long as it's going to take these guys to leave. Look at this guy, he's closest to us. This is the guy with a very black mane. Sorry, James, just a quick look at his tail here. This is how we'll recognize him in future. Look at the tail tip, very, very black tuft in it, but that break in it. So old injury, we saw it a while back. That could be one of the ways that we could recognize this guy again. And then we've got the others just walking up the road at the moment. They're close together, consistently bonding with each other. And then the one in the foreground, sort of left-hand side there at the moment, that's Shaka. Have to find some other ways of recognizing him. The very, very first time we saw him, that name came to mind for me. Shaka was probably one of the most fearsome and influential kings, I guess, in the Zulu history. And he was a fearsome and incredible warrior. Dominated most of southern Africa at one stage or another. And this male just brought that name to mind for me the first time we saw him. He had incredible eyes, and again, when we looked at him earlier, keep in mind, he's the one that was lying down with that other male. Anyway, I'm rambling on. Basically, what I'm saying is that I'm slowly just... Some of these characteristics that are emerging with these lions will maybe give them names. Also, as names emerge with the other guides, it's part of the privilege, I guess, or part of the parcel of working in this area, is the names eventually grow from animals' behavior. But since there's not many names yet, we'll start using more and more of these names. Mr. T is widely used. Shaka is a good name. And then also this Pride, the Mapogo males. I'll sometimes refer to them to their old name as well. They literally were, and this is no joke, they were called the Spartan Pride, or the Spartan Pride. And that's actually got to do with where they first started seeing them in the far southern parts of Sabi Sand. There's actually a property called Sparta. So maybe a coincidence, because James, remember the first day we saw these guys? It's actually very classic that James is on this drive again, because the first time I ever saw these lions was the first time James saw them as well. And it was also a time when they killed a cub. And without knowing it, we were saying that these guys remind us of Spartans. They are just such warrior-like lions. They are very, very beautiful and strong and fearsome. I think that's a good way to describe them. And I've seen a lot of wild lions in my life. I've been very lucky to have even done some research on lions in different places, so I've seen a lot of them. And these guys certainly, with a little bit more time, they will grow on me until they're at the top of the list of lions that I can remember. So yeah, we did refer to them as the Spartans just out of their behavior, and it turns out that that used to be what they were called before the name Mapogo came along. So if I sometimes talk of the Spartans, you might understand why. This one might become Blackbeard. I'm not quite sure if that name works yet. We'll see. James, and then we saw one male that you haven't seen now. Basically, sorry to just, I'm jumping around a lot. I've just got so many thoughts going around in my head. But the four that we're looking at now are the four that we saw the first time.
Yeah.
So we saw these two with the beautiful manes. Remember when we got up to that giraffe, those of you that were with us on the drive will remember as well. We had Shaka off to the side a bit. He fed later. And this guy we're looking at now had the big mane, and he was there as well. And then the other two, Mr. T and T2, they were there as well. They joined sort of sporadically over the next while. But what I was building up to, James, is the other day when we saw all five of these guys together, I saw the fifth guy.
Yeah.
Yes, like
Big.
he's very spectacular. He's I don't know, I wouldn't necessarily say bigger than any of these guys. He's got a mane very similar to the one we're looking at now, but his mane is just that little bit lusher, a little bit darker, and he's got a beautiful white nozzle, something I haven't seen much with, well, not to that extent before with lions. He has a big, beautiful face, and he's a little bit more, I would push him a little bit less, put it that way. If I really had to, I would maybe grab this lion by the tail, if there was life and death involved. But with him, I wouldn't want to try it. Sorry guys, just to highlight the fact that the fifth male part of this group that some of you wouldn't have seen before, James hasn't seen him yet either. He's very impressive, and I think the name Leonidas or Leonidas is just playing at the back of my head, but we're going to leave that there for now. We'll get to that when we get to know him more. For the moment, we are very lucky, and I can't remember when last I talked so much. I'm talking and talking. I'm sure Sue has got a bunch of questions, and I've just got verbal attack here. We are very lucky. We've got 4 male lions here, one of them looking at us now as I speak. And he's licking his paws. He's going to get up any minute and walk again. But for now, maybe we can fit another question in if there's one, Sue.
Do you have a question for you, Pieter? Do you remember before our camera crashed earlier in the day, we had a question from Helen and Valerie, pretty much the same question. And Colleen is now saying, can we answer that question? Pieter was answering a question about Mr. T when you had to cut away due to technical difficulties. Somebody had asked if Mr. T's mane was due to genetics and wondered if he'd pass it down to his cub.
Oh yes, of course. I was actually enjoying answering that question this morning as well. Just to reiterate that question from this morning, and then Colleen just reminding us. Mr. T has got a bit of an odd mane. I think it's a combination of his youngish. So he's, give me 1 second, is the game drive joining us. Station approaching the Ngala, you can pull in them 4. We've got one close to us. The other 3 are all the way along the road, spread out. Lalapanzi. So when they move again, I'm sure they'll famba up the Ndlela. So if you maybe want to try and get in front of them. Can you see the others? Oh, sorry, James. Sorry, guys. Just the game drive's also pulling in. So just to answer that question again, Valerie and Colleen, he's got a bit of a different mane. I think it'll also mature a bit. I've got a feeling, and again, this is not fact, don't quote me, but just from looking at lion coalitions and how they typically develop, that the Mapogos probably came from 2 different litters, or 2 different females. 3 of them would have been brothers, and I think those 3 would be the guy we're looking at now, Blackbeard, definitely Shaka, and then that other guy that I mentioned earlier, the really impressive looking male, for lack of a name, call him Leonidas at the moment. Those 3 are they're very similar size, they've got very, very similar facial features. There's slight differences in mane coloration and facial coloration, but very slight. So I would definitely say that those 3 are brothers. Then Mr. T and that other one, call him T2 for now, they look quite similar. They've also got a similar mane. Look at this guy just ignoring us flat, giving us the back end view. They've got very similar mane development, so partly genetic, to answer the question, but also I think they're a bit younger. So they would have been cousins to these 3. They would have grown up together. They would have been kicked out of the pride together at roughly the age of 2, and they would have lived together as nomads until they got to this stage where they have now successfully challenged and taken over larger territories than most males get to do. Look at that mane. He's in good shape. Very, very healthy lion, this. I mean, look at that. So, to finish that question off, I'm giving long-winded answers tonight, but I'm sure I'm trying to basically give you a sort of a broad view of how these things work with them. Those manes will thicken up. They will still get thicker and lusher as they get older, but I do think there's also some genetic link to that slightly comical mohawk that they carry. But who knows, maybe a couple of generations from now we see a whole lot of other lions running around with the same hairdo, and there's a bit of genetic history behind it. But yeah, Colleen, I think there's certain genetics linked to it, and I also think there's maybe a little bit of a stress factor. Maybe those males have been having a bit of a hard time here and there. As we saw earlier, that T2 has got some hectic scarring going on in his face. So sometimes with severe conditions or severe stress, they also lose a bit of the mane. But make no mistake, they don't have small manes. When you look at them from the front, like we saw earlier with that little bit of a tussle hanging from the other male's mane, they still have beautiful, impressive manes. Big mane on the chest and down to the belly. It's just around the ear and the neck area that they're a bit lacking. Not the case with this guy though. The term mane certainly does fit the bill here. Morris again? Jan, you can please come around me, huh? Get yourself a nice spot somewhere where you can bugamunshi. Actually, I might take a chance here. Let's just see if this... maybe not. This guy's coming back. Oh, he's hearing something. Maybe the 5th guy is in the area as well. He's coming back. We're going to see a bit of greeting now, maybe. Keep in mind, these 2 males have been lying separately from each other. Remember, we only saw one of the big manes earlier, so they're only seeing each other again now. A bit of greeting, facial rubbing. Look at that. Awesome. Oh. Come and lie right up against him as well. We're going to light out the way. You can see that right in the other one's face. Now this is a sign of closeness, of camaraderie, of a bond. I was going to say friendship, but friendship doesn't begin to describe this. It is a bond much stronger. It is something that maybe the 300 that fought at the Spartan battles could explain from a human point of view. Oh, he's going to come right next to us here. Look at that. Big scar on his elbow there as well.
See that little sly look up towards you, Pieter?
Yeah, he did just give me a little peek. incredible the kind of injury and scarring these animals can cope with.
To give you an idea how close they are to us.
Like James says, I'm a bit in the shadows here at the moment, but they're very close. 6 feet maybe from the front of the car. And obviously very comfortable. Look at that, just drops the head down. Just do it like that. Not a bad place to be, eh? It is, quite often I get the feeling that it's just truly spectacular what we get to do and the way we do it.
Alright.
And I meant that gesture in every respectable way that you can. There was no disrespect meant with it. It's just to show you that we are literally, we are just here. Look at the size of that paw. If I had to open my hand next to the paw, it'll be the same size.
Times as thick.
Yeah, I know. A lot stronger. Oh, just heard a sigh there. Once again, just incredible the level of, I don't know if trust is necessarily the wrong word or the right word, but habituation certainly does. These lions have grown up used to vehicles, and that's why they can totally relax on it. This male is sleeping now. I'm literally sitting 6 feet, 7 feet at the most away from his face. The car itself, the front wheel, probably about 5 feet from him. And these lions have been through a lot. The last 24 hours, they've come from a long way away. They've run a great distance. They've attacked and fought with a whole bunch of lionesses. They've killed. They've been injured themselves. They've risked death themselves. And yet they can, after all that drama and trauma, lie this close to us without being too perturbed or disturbed by us. Another aspect of it as well, it is also a case of when we go through trauma like that, it can take us days, weeks, years, lifetimes to get over it. For these guys, it is part of their day-to-day survival, part of their life, part of what they do. Greg, do you copy? Last station, go again. Yeah, Charles, I don't know if you copied earlier, but other two Nkuhumas joined. There's now 4 of them. 2 Lalapans still here, Junction, Central Drakensberg, and 2 are a little bit closer to Cheetah Cutline side, also Lalapans. And then I couldn't quite copy, but I think Greg was trying to get hold of someone from Djuma just now. Sharp. Charles, actually your better approach might be from Cheetah Cutline, because 2 of my daughters are lying that way, and that's the way they were heading. So I don't know if you want to try from that side. Also, they're far enough away that it's almost 2 sightings then. Sharp, Charles. Yeah, I'm here with Morris, but when you pull in, if we're too close, I'll pull out. There's a couple of vehicles heading this direction. Yeah, Greg, how do you copy? Yeah, there's 4 of them here, Lalapanzi, basically spread out between Drakensberg Drive and Cheetah Cutline on that little piece of Central Road. Cool, yeah, and it looks like the direction that we're heading in is probably going to be Torchwood Way. We'll spend a bit more time with them. I think we've been extremely lucky. We also managed to see the 4 of them joining. I think that was very exciting. We were just going to try and move around them a bit, and then like ghosts out of the darkness, 2 more males joined. We'll spend a few more minutes with him and we'll make some space for some of the other game drives. But I'm sure I don't really need to say this, but sometimes I say just because I can. It's been quite an afternoon. James, I'm going to just quickly switch our spotlight off a little bit. I know there's a bit of a funny shadow on his head there, but I'm getting worried that we might not be able to start our car, which will of course present a little bit of its own problems. I'm just going to save a little bit of battery power. Just Morris is putting lights on for now. We'll put that on again in a second. To give an idea, that funny shadow that you're seeing on his forehead there at the moment, that is actually from the back end. Let me just do this quickly. That is actually from the back end of our car. It's the shadow that you can see over it. Bit of a rollover. Big belly. Yeah, pull in Charles. I'm going to pull out soon. It's just there's one Ngala's Lalapanzi Kusui and go off to the Mova now. I just want to see if he moves a bit. But can you booger those other 2? Cool. Andrew again. Andrew, what's your lock now? Oh, James, look at those other 2 as well. Just look at that beautiful backlight there. Yeah, you can come this way. I'm going to make space as soon as I can get away from this one, Ngala. Yeah, that looks amazing. It's a little bit, we can't control that light. That's from Charles's vehicle, but just look at how amazing that looks. Just the edge of the main. Interestingly enough, I spoke earlier a little bit about the possible family background of these lions. Like I said, it's more speculation, but it is based on sort of typical lion dynamics. Notice which males are together. Look at those 2 up there, Mr. T and T2. They doing a similar bonding behavior to what these 2 did closer to us earlier. Again, just showing that within this coalition, maybe the bonds are just a little bit closer between true brothers as opposed to cousins. Not that that means anything in terms of the relationship between that guy that's yawning at the moment and the 2 lying right next to us are not strong. The relationship between them will be as strong. They are brothers in arms. They literally live together since they were cubs, and they will eventually die together as well. Guys, we're going to have to quietly sneak out of here. Yeah, Aubrey, you can come before. I'm going to start up and move out. See what this Ngala does. You can approach either Drakensberg or Cheetah Cutline side. Charles is one end, Morris at the other. Pulling out, Morris to unlock. Guys, we're going to have to make some space.
Just a little more periods.
Yeah. Look at that. Cleaning his paw. Okay. Guys, and unfortunately I'm going to have to start up right next to this other male, but he shouldn't mind too much. Morris again. Jan, if I come straight back, is there space for me next to you there? Okay, Nkuhuma. Yes, that looks spectacular. I literally have to tear myself away. Look at the guy next to us as well. Keep in mind we've got a lion still right next to us. Just giving us the eye. Am I right that side? I'm not going to drive into Morris. It's a pleasure. For sorry, earlier they were further and he turned around and he came and lay so close to us. Enjoy him for him. It's sharp. Oh. Yeah, no, that's the kind of thing that doesn't come along every day. We're just gonna, there's a gap there. Just gonna get out of the area a little bit. As you can imagine, there's a few game drives on the way. Everyone's dying to see these guys, and we're gonna just make do as much as we can with the lights we can, and then we'll finish off our night drive in infrared. But again, I don't need to say it, but it just feels nice to say it. What an afternoon! It really has been spectacular stuff. Once again, the emotions that come with it just maybe makes us feel a little bit more alive as well. And then to see these guys in all their splendor and just the impact they have. I mean, you look at lions like that, I can't get enough of it. I see a big male lion like that, I see his eyes, and I just, I just see why I do this. I see why the word passion really does mean a lot if you get to experience things that you are passionate about. Just cover a bit of ground and we'll get ready for the last part of our drive.